Hello everyone, welcome to Captain's Log, an accountant's guide to the galaxy. It is stardate 230109. Now, we've either entered a new year, so I'll just start the podcasts again, or we've entered a new series. I don't know whether to call this season 2 or just roll with it. Really don't know. And by the time that you actually are watching or listening to this, you'll know what my decision is. So it's a bit of a random brain moment for me just to discuss that out loud. I'm talking to myself. Right. So I've had a bit of a break because of Christmas and New Year. And it's strange because it feels like forever since doing one of these shows. It's been a good 3-4 week break. It's been lovely. I've had many ideas, so many that I was confused about what to do with this episode because there was just so many thoughts inside my head. So what I've done is I've called this one, This Is Your Captain Speaking, because one of the common questions that I get asked over the past few years is, why do you refer to yourself as Captain Accountancy? And it's a bloody good question. So in this episode, it's a new year. Let's start off with answering that question. So I will be discussing why I call myself, well, actually, do you know what? I didn't first call myself Captain. It came from someone else. But why I adopted that name, we'll talk about that, all the reasons behind it. We will then announce the final 2 charities of the year. Yeah, spoiler alert, there are 2 more charities. So in total, we will have 4 charities for 2023. I'll then outline what I plan to do with this Captain's Log show for the remainder of the year. The remainder of the year? We've only just started. That's an odd one. Yeah, so what I plan to do for this year. Last year was good. I enjoyed it. There's been some excellent feedback, but it's time to turn up the heat a little bit. So let's kick things off. Why Captain Accountancy? It's got to the point that when I get booked to do a speaking gig or some external training, then now it's in the bio, it calls me Carl Ford, the self-styled Captain Accountancy, or the self-styled Captain of Accountancy. And I thought that was weird. Did I really self-style myself that way? But then I was like, oh, okay, well, that's good that these aren't my words. These are the words that other people are using. So let's just go with it. Or in the words of the great prophets, Oasis, roll with it. Sorry, I won't do that again. I promise not to use Oasis again. For a while anyway. Right. First of all, I believe that the first reference to me and Captain came from Taz Thornton back in I don't know if it was 2019. It could well have been very early, pre-shenanigans 2020, when I started to work with Taz. And I worked with Taz for a while. She was my business coach, but also, I guess, spiritual coach, spiritual guru. I hate the word guru, really, but I don't know how else to refer to her. So she was coaching me, and Taz is a bit geeky as well. She's into her Marvel and stuff. And she called me Captain, and I kind of liked it. And the reason that she called me Captain is, for anyone that's watching this on YouTube, you can see that there's probably one thing that sticks out more than anything else in the background. For anyone that's listening to this as a podcast, I have a Captain America picture behind me. I've got a Captain America cushion. There's a Captain America figure, and then there's another Captain America comic book montage. So I'm a fan of Captain America, and I don't like DC as much, but that's for a separate discussion. I'm more of a Marvel kind of guy, and my 3 favorites are Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man. Thor, I think, is great because of the sense of humor that he's got. I think it's a cracking sense of humor. I love his character, and I don't mean the character that he plays. I mean the actual character of Thor, his like inner being type of thing. I think it's fantastic. Iron Man, it's more Tony Stark than Iron Man that I like, and it's the charisma that he has, and the fact that he started off his journey as Iron Man. Let's be honest, it was selfish. Like, for anyone that's not watched the Iron Man movie, I'll do a spoiler alert, although it's so old now that if you haven't watched it, why? Go and watch it. But he starts off as a very selfish thing. He creates the Iron Man, or an Iron Man costume, basically for self-preservation. But then it changes into this more altruistic thing, and I like that kind of like resonates with me. And I hate the word resonates. It's along with let's do some blue sky thinking. No, let's not. So I like Thor because of his humor, and the character, the way that he carries himself. I like Iron Man because of the charisma of Tony Stark and the way that he thinks of these ingenious solutions. It's things that I think they're fictional characters, but I think we as humans can actually look to them and draw some sort of inspiration. So then Captain America, I like him because he's kind of like a normal guy. That in the beginning, he's this weak and thin guy. There's no muscles to him or anything. But then he transforms into Captain America. So I think you can kind of relate to that. That's okay. No one's going to get injected with serum. Let's be honest, but it's something that we can relate to. That if we're not happy with our body, we can go to the gym. We can bulk down. We can bulk up. We can go through this sort of process. So I like that you can relate to it. Also, Captain America is the first Avenger, but also he's the leader sort of thing, that they all kind of look to him for inspiration and guidance. I like that leadership. He really is the leader of the Avengers, the leader of the pack. So that's why I like him. So I like Thor because of his humor. I like Iron Man, the charisma, and I like Captain America because he's a normal-ish guy that you can relate to. And I love the leadership skills that he shows. So that's part of where the Captain Accountancy identity comes from. I'm currently speaking to an awesome lady called Claire Napper, who is going to be doing some more branded workwear for me, and it's going to be along the lines of the Marvel inspired stuff. So I'm really looking forward to that. But I digress. The other side is that I love sports. I've been into sports for a very long time. I've played football from, I think I was about 8 years old, maybe 7, when I played for my first team. I was training with Atherstone Rangers as a young whippersnapper, and loved it. And I played football through to 25, 26, 27, that sort of age. And believe me, 20 years of playing football takes its toll. My knees and ankles are screwed because if you're playing amateur, semi-pro, Sunday league level, you don't get treated properly, and also you get guys kicking lumps into you. It takes its toll, but we don't need to discuss my body right now. We need to discuss why sports plays into it. And one is that I've been lucky, I guess, fortunate to be a captain for a sports team. When I was at middle school, so junior school now in like the modern school language, I captained my house football team to victory, which was ace because I think it was Elder. They were the Greens. Even though it's meant to be like, look in how people are allocated to different house teams, somehow, mysteriously, year after year, Elder always got the best sports people, the faster runners, the better football players, etc. And when it was basically when you get to the final year of junior school, that's when you kind of can be the captain of your team. So somehow I'd managed to become captain of Maple, which was my team, the Blues. And I captained them to victory in the house football tournament, which was ace. I've been captain of a few other teams. Never like a permanent captain, always more like a stand-in type of thing. And that's cool. You play with the hand that you're dealt. So it is what it is. But the other one that I relate to the sports side is someone called David Beckham. So there's a few reasons why I respect and look up to Mr. Beckham. First of all, he wears the number 7, which I love stuff to do with 7. You've got Kimi Räikkönen, you've got David Beckham wore it, you've got a few others. There's just something about that number 7 for me that just is ace. But David Beckham, he was a bit of a villain. If you can remember way back when to 1998, he was a bit of impetulant little lad. I can't use the words that I probably would because I need to keep the language clean because this is going onto YouTube. But basically, he lashed out, he kicked out, and he got sent off. And whether that cost us some World Cup glory or not is debatable. It had an impact on the end of the game. I know that. So he was a bit of a villain. He was ripped apart in the press. People hated him. There was effigies of him that were being burnt and all sorts, completely out of order, that sort of stuff. But he was a hated character. Roll on 2 years, and November 2000, he was made captain of England, which was, I guess, a surprise decision to a lot. As England, we didn't have a permanent manager. We had a caretaker, and he was made captain. England lost that match 1-0 to Italy, but there was a definite sea change in England at that point. It was like the young lions were born. It was then this golden generation had appeared because Italy should have annihilated England, really. They should have ripped us to pieces. Italy were a good team back then. England had failed to qualify for a World Cup as well, I think, by that point. So it wasn't good times. Beckham was made captain, and it kind of grew into that role. And one thing that really stands out for me is the year after, 2001, October 2001. And England were playing Greece. It was the final qualifying match of the World Cup. So we needed a result from this match. However, England weren't getting a result from it. 2 minutes into stoppage time, so we're talking 92 minutes of a 90-minute football match, England were losing 2-1 to Greece. Not good, is it? No. There was a foul on, I believe it was Teddy Sheringham, just outside the 18-yard box. David Beckham picks up the ball, and the commentators are like going, yeah, this is basically the last kick of the match. It's not going well for England, but Beckham could send England into the World Cup. Cool as a cucumber, calm, nerves of steel. David Beckham places the ball down, belts it into the top corner. It was an amazing free kick. And the thing is, under so much pressure, he just didn't show it. The commentators go nuts, give that man a knighthood. Well, that played out well in the future, didn't it? But it was just, I love the fact that David Beckham covered pretty much every blade of grass on that pitch. He was the one that wanted that result so bad. He then knew that pressure moment, he was going to do it. You could see the way he placed the ball down with purpose. And that, for me, is what a captain's about. It's about leading by example, leading from the front. So I've got the Marvel nerdy side leads into the captain thing. I've got then the sports part. But what the hell has that got to do with you and your business? Why should you pay attention to me being called the Captain Accountancy or the Captain of Accountancy? Well, here's why. You see, in 2013, I started to use Xero. It's now 2023. 10 years I've used Zero for 10 years. That's a lot. That's a long time, but it's a lot of knowledge, to the point where in 2020, I started to be consulted by other accountants in how to get the best out of Zero. I started to officially train other accountants in how to use Zero. That's kind of like a captain role, isn't it? You know, if you're the one setting the example and leading from the front. So that's part of it. The other one is that I train, so not just do I train accountants, and let's be clear, that is UK-based accountants in how to use Zero. I could train accountants outside of the UK in Zero. It just hasn't happened at this particular moment. The other side is that I train finance teams. So I'd say I'm fortunate. I wouldn't say I'm lucky, because I've positioned myself to do it, but fortunate enough to be able to go to different countries. I've been to Spain, Italy, Dubai. There's probably some others, but I just can't think off the top of my head, to train finance teams. And some of these are names that you may not recognize. There's some pharmaceutical and oil companies that I've worked with. They're not really household names, although they are million, billion-dollar businesses. You wouldn't recognize them. But then there's things like Aramco, that's a fairly well-known name. Anyone that's into Formula One will see that they are partnered up with Aston Martin, but also they are actually paired up with F1 directly, and they sponsor many races. Then there's this little-known organization called the UN. Ever heard of them? UN, United Nations? I've worked with those this year to help train up their finance teams in budgeting and forecasting. And it's brilliant that these huge organizations put their trust in me to help better their organizations. I see that as another part of being the captain, that I'm showing some leadership. I'm bringing people together. I'm making them better than what they were before. And I don't want that to sound like a big-headed statement, because I'm not a big-headed person. I'm not an egotistical person. It's just, this is what's happening, and I love it. The other side is because of my background, yes, I'm a very, very knowledgeable accountant, but I've got experience outside of that. I've worked in retail. I've worked in recruitment. Then I've worked in corporate finance. So there's a few different sectors there that I can bring to the table. But also, I've actually ran my own businesses. I'm running my own business right now. Before Carl Ford and Associates, I've had other businesses that I ran. One of them would have been, I'd say it started off with an olive oil business. So I was importing olive oil from the Middle East, from Palestine. I was then retailing it predominantly to the UK, but also it was exported as well. Probably one of the most prominent ones that sticks in my mind is when I had to fulfill an order to Norway, which I thought was ace. So I've got a lot of experience that isn't just pure financial, and I can bring that to the table and help other businesses. So as Carl Ford Accountancy, Carl Ford as an individual can add value to businesses. We can help make them better than what they were. We can show some leadership. And like right now, we need some leadership, because the media, the press, it's a lot of doom and gloom. You know, we've got inflation, double digits, 10, 11%. Which, let's be honest, that's not great. However, it's not as bad as what the media make out. It's just, we're not used to it. We've been very lucky for the past, I don't know, like probably a good best part of 20 years. We've been very fortunate to have good times where we've had interest rates at a predictable level. We've had inflation at a low and predictable level. But anyone that's a bit older, like I don't remember it, but there's some times in the 80s when inflation and interest rates rocketed, worse than what they are now. But the current generation doesn't remember it because it was a little bit too far away. But it's been worse. We need some perspective. So the perspective is, if inflation is, let's say 10%, because it's easy to calculate stuff. If inflation is 10%, your weekly shopping would have been 60 quid last year. Now it's 66 pounds. So it's not good. It's not good that it's gone up £6. But what does £6 really mean? It's like, it's a pint and a half down the pub that you've got to cut back on. It's not we need some perspective, and this is what an external person can give you. Also, if you're in business, you're lucky that you don't have to beg and plead your boss. You don't have to go on strike to get a pay rise. And going on strike, it's not fun. It negatively affects other people. It negatively affects your pay packet, because some unions will subsidize you for going on strike, others won't. Your employer, if you go on strike, will not pay you. It's unpaid. So you're losing out. It's not, these strike things don't help anyone. But I'm not going to go into that because it's political and I don't want to do politics on this show. But it just shows that there's other options. As a business owner, we can just go and get a pay rise. You want a pay rise, you go and get a new client. That's it. You've got more money. And one of my notes has just fallen down, so I've got to try and remember what that was. But yeah, I can help lead businesses. We as a business can help lead others. So that's where the more accountancy captain comes into it. The fact that I've got the 10 years of zero knowledge, plus other accounting systems like QuickBooks, Free Agent, Dex, which used to be Receipt Bank. All of these, I've got lots and lots of knowledge I can share and help improve your business. So that's where the captain of accountancy comes from. And I thought it was really helpful for people to understand that it gives an insight into my personality, because shock horror, an accountant has a personality. It helps because an accountant should never be that dreaded phone call. It should be something that you enjoy, because he should be part of your team. You should never dread calling your accountant. So that is why I'm Captain Accountancy, captain of accountancy. The background into it with my light for Captain America, my sports interests, and then also my accountancy and business credentials. So that's that. Next, we need to announce some charities. So I have spoken to a chap called David Baum. David has an organization called Move for Wellness, and this is kind of like a two-pronged one. It's about helping people move. On Facebook, he has a group where it's not necessarily accountability, but it's more that vibe of every day people post their daily steps. It's about getting people to be more active. It's not about setting world records. But if you don't move much, let's say your daily steps are 2,000. It's about getting you to do 2,500 or 3,000. It's just moving it forward, because the more active we are, the healthier we become. But also there's a mental health aspect to this as well. In fact, from my point, this is a subject that's very close to my heart. I love mental health charities, and I'll do whatever I can to help them. And David has got this side that I know if I go for a run or the gym or just do any sort of activity, it helps my mental well-being. And this is a common thread. When people aren't active, it negatively affects their mental health. And people are more active, it positively. So it's just about promoting this healthy lifestyle. So Move for Wellness is going to be one of our charity partners of the year. And then the other one, it ties into a personal interest. So there was the lifeboats, RNLI. There was also the mountain rescue charities that I hope to never use, let's be honest. But because of my interest outside of work, there's a chance that I might need to call on them. So I like to help them. Also, they're volunteers. This one is the National Trust. I love getting out into National Trust locations. I love the work that they do. I think it's great in terms of repairing mountain paths, hiking routes, etc. The preservation of land that they do, the fact that they buy chunks of land so that developers can't buy them to build houses on, fantastic. But they also have a program where they want to plant trees. And I think this is something important as we're looking at things like climate change. One thing that we need to look at is that people keep talking about going carbon neutral, reducing your carbon footprint. And it's all about using less carbon heavy things. But the other side to it is, why don't we do things to remove carbon that's around? So trees are fantastic because we breathe out carbon, we breathe out CO2. I'm hoping I got that right because I'm not a scientist. I need to think back to biology, but it was a long time ago. But we breathe in oxygen. Trees do the opposite. They breathe in CO2 and they breathe out oxygen. How cool is that? It cannot be a coincidence that we've had massive chunks of the rainforest removed in the likes of Brazil and South America, and we're having issues with air quality and the amount of carbon in the air. So this is part of what I want to do. I want to support the National Trust in what they're doing for preserving the countryside, but also I want to support them in their reforestation. So we are going to be supporting Move for Wellness in 2023. We are going to be supporting the National Trust in 2023. England and Wales, Mountain Rescue, and then we are also going to be supporting the RNLI, the lifeboats. So that is our 4 charity partners. Now I need to remember what was on my notes that's fallen off. I think it was probably about what's going on now in the future. So I am the host of a business networking meeting. We meet once a fortnight and I love it. It's something that, as you can see, anyone watching on YouTube, my background, I'm a bit of a nerd. It's Get Your Geek On. So we get some geeky presentations in. It's once a fortnight. And we try and tie it into business so that, you know, you're learning something, developing your business, but also it's business networking. So you're in a room with like-minded individuals. Fantastic. It's once a fortnight. The next one is the 19th of January. That's a Thursday. It's 10 a.m. through to 11:30. And this one's really cool that we have Claire Napper will be joining us. She is into Harry Potter, and it is 10 business and life lessons that you can learn from Harry Potter. So that's really cool. Later on today, so I'm recording this on the 12th of Jan, a couple of days later than planned, I'm going to BAB Networking. They are having a budgeting workshop and I will be presenting there. And that one, it's a cool presentation workshop that I've not done for a while, but it's budgeting is a waste of time. Spoiler alert, it's not a waste of time. It's actually a very useful process. So I'm looking forward to doing that. I've not done it for a while, and there should be a good crowd of people there that can benefit. We also have our training. Our training is live on our website. So there are things like accounting essentials, introduction to zero advanced, and budgeting and forecasting. They are the 4 that we've currently got. I do plan to add more events shortly. So I think that's covered pretty much everything I want to do. No doubt I'll hit the end recording and I'll find the post-it note and find out that there's something really important that I've missed. But hey ho, it won't affect things too much. So I want to now sign out of the video. I don't want to sign. I want to sign off, don't I? Ladies and gentlemen, it's great to be back in 2023 doing the Captain's Log and Accountant's Guide to the Galaxy. I look forward to helping you grow your businesses this year, because this year I can feel it in my geeky bones. It's going to be a bloody good year. Adios, amigos. I will see you next week.